What do I think of this one? It's written in the stars. That is an opening gag that will not make any sense unless you actually remember this story pretty well. And the impression I get is many people don't. But regardless, classic Doctor Who time, the creature from the pit. This is one that I honestly knew almost nothing about. It's one that I never hear referenced, and the rare times that I do, never flatteringly. This isn't one that people jump to defend. It's usually not among the ones that people are like, oh God, that one. But it's not one I've ever seen singled out for praise. And anytime I have seen it brought up, it has been with a shrug or a mild eye roll. So I really didn't know what I was going to get with this one. This is the Dr. Romana 2, so Lala Ward, and K9. K9, this is from the one season where John Leeson did not voice K9 because he actually stepped out of the part because he was concerned that doing voice only was going to limit what kind of work he could get. So he basically took this year off and did other work. He came back after because he knew K9 was going to be written out, but K9 sounded a little bit off, and then I double checked. I'm like, right, this is the season that John Leeson didn't do it. So they land on this planet. So she's not the ruler of the whole planet, but she kind of holds it in an iron grip anyway. Forgive the pun, which you don't even get why it's a pun until I get more into it. Anyway, the lady Adstrata. So she basically controls the only mineral mine on the planet. Metal is an incredibly rare commodity on this planet, and she has most of it. And this results in the Doctor and Romana basically being captured by her almost immediately. And what had once been the mine is now the titular pit, which is inhabited by the titular creature. Creature's been there for about 15 years. And so we have sort of the back and forth between the Doctor and this ruler and Romana. And there's a group of bandits who kind of throw a wrench into the works at a few points. The first half of this is pretty good, actually. And it's good for the reason a lot of this particular era is good, which is that the chemistry between the Doctor and Romana is just stellar. Those two play off each other so well. And this is like top tier writing for the Doctor. Like, he gets so many great lines. Just off the top of my head, there's this glorious little exchange that he has with Romana where she's like, oh, how are you still alive? And the Doctor goes, well, Time Lords, they say we have 90 lives. And she goes, well, how many have you gone through? He says, oh, about 130. And it's just this quick, snappy, it's that sort of golden age of Hollywood, snappy, witty banter that I love. And they're just nailing it. And they're not the only ones getting good lines either. When he ends up in the pit, the Doctor runs into this astrologer who I also really liked. I actually really love, in fact, as a character, because there is a certain amount, what you would expect in a show like Doctor Who, is for someone who, believes in this sort of pseudoscience of astrology to be just a buffoon. But he's actually kind of insightful, and he's not unintelligent. Like, he put his faith in something that isn't true, and that does get poked out a little bit, but also he makes some accurate predictions, and he's just an interesting and fun guy to have around. So is he a buffoon? A little bit at times, but that's not the only thing done with him. He's way more well-rounded than I expected a character like that to be. And he even gets a really stellar line because he'd been thrown in the pit, obviously on the assumption that he would die down there. And when the Lady Estrada shows up in the pit and she sees him and goes, why aren't you dead? And he just goes, sorry, my lady, it was a minor oversight. Even the Lady Estrada is more interesting than you would think, because you'd expect someone like her, who's just ruling with this iron grip, and the kind of person who, the instant someone displeases with him, she sentences them to death. You'd expect something kind of like, I guess, maybe something like the Captain from the Pirate Planet, or maybe even someone like Iron Gron from Time Warrior. But she's got more intelligence to her than those characters often display. To be fair, the captain from the pirate planet was smarter than he came across. That was actually part of his act. But at the same time, like, she is cunning, and she is attentive, and she is picking up on stuff. So like, watching her, especially like her and Romana kind of battle wits, because Romana gets captured multiple times, but unlike a lot of other stories, it doesn't bother me seeing the companion captured, because she frequently, if not fully talks her way out of the situation she's in, she at least talks her way into not getting killed. She actually acquits herself quite well despite being captured multiple times in this. And watching her and Estrada sort of face off, realizing that Estrada is picking up on stuff and is catching Romana in some of the stuff she's trying to pull, but at the same time, Romana then just changes tactics. She doesn't give up, and it's just, there's a well-roundedness to most of the characters, actually, that is better than I often get from Classic in general. So that's all pretty solid. Once we get to episode 2, the pacing starts to feel a bit off, and then, sorry, not episode 2, episode 3. The pacing starts to feel off, and then episode 4 is just, it's a really dull climax. So, minor spoilers, I guess. The titular creature, which suffers from the problem of a lot of big deal monsters from, well, Classic in general and this era in particular, which is, doesn't look great. It's the same problem as the Macra from Warriors of the Deep. It's the same problem as Kroll from Power of Kroll. For some reason, it feels worse when it's like the titular monster, and it's like, doesn't look great. When it's just like one of many things going on, or just something that's kind of, an aspect of the situation, I guess it doesn't hit quite as hard, but something about it being like the titular thing, like, really? You named the episode after that. Okay. It's just sort of this big blobby thing. And it's not particularly impressive to look at, either as an effect or even like the close-ups of it, and the practical aspect of it. It's not great. That's not that big of a problem, but what happens is the Doctor basically finds out this isn't a mindless monster. This was actually an ambassador that Estrada had thrown into the pit and declared to be a creature because it couldn't communicate without a certain device she took from it. And it came from a planet that needed chlorophyll because his species lives off of it. And they had an overabundance of metal. So since this was a very forested planet, his people thought like, oh, well, this will work out great. We'll do a trade deal. Except the first person he encountered was the person who had a monopoly on the metal, and the monopoly was not something she wanted to give up. So we spend the vast majority of the finale just sort of getting that backstory, and there's a climax that is just kind of something talked about. Like, oh, this thing's happening. Oh, well, we'll have to do something about it. Okay, well, we've done something about it. It's a very talky climax. And those can work, but in this case, they could talk about what the stakes were all day long, but you never felt them in any ways. And that's the 4th episode. The 3rd episode, the pacing just kind of feels off because it just feels dragged out. Honestly, and I don't say this about a lot of 4-parters, because 4-parters is usually the sweet spot. It's kind of hard to go wrong with the 4-part story in Classic era in terms of like getting your pacing right. But a 3rd episode feels like filler. It feels like it's dragged out. It feels like this wanted to be a 3-episode story. It feels like you could condense episodes 3 and 4 into one and probably have a better final product. At the very least, it wouldn't be as dragged out over its back half. Which is a shame, because as I said, the front half is actually quite good. Not because the story is amazing, but because the characters are quite good. The Doctor and Romana especially, but even the additional characters, the side characters, the ones created just for the story, they're pretty solid and they're fun to watch and interesting to see interact with each other and see how much thought went into writing them. So there's definitely something here, and there's definitely very good aspects. It's just, not the core of the story, which is probably why this one's kind of largely disregarded. Like I said, there's good here. There's quite good stuff here, actually, but it's not what's going to come to mind for most people thinking back on it. They're going to remember the big blobby, not that impressive monster. Maybe they'll remember how unimpressive the finale was, and they'll forget, the little nuances to the characters and the snappy dialogue and stuff like that. And I'm not going to call this some kind of overlooked gem. It's not. But if you've skipped it because you didn't hear anything good, I'm telling you there is good here, and it is worth seeking out. Just not one I think I'd ever return to, because there isn't enough of the good to make it worth a rewatch to get through the slog of the back half. I could see myself rewatching the first 2 episodes for fun, and then maybe just going, I basically remember how it finishes, and stopping after that. But yeah, The Creature from the Pit. You seen this one? What you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon pays the bills and enables me to do this as my living. Even if you can't help me out that way, like, share, subscribe. They also help. Don't worry too much about it, though. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can come on back next time you need a break. Now to thank my highest supporting patrons: Robin Moore, Jared Boyce, Zubin Lipfula, Auntie Kate 808, Mira G, Angry Casperl, Claire Wright, Dave Hall, Snark Shark, Oliver B, Mystic Shadow, Daphne Matthews, Sean Miller, Welsh Wrestling Geeks, Melissa Pedersen, Becky Sparks, Twilord, Kay Johnston, Tracy Scrabbit, Pau Barabajoggle, Magdalena, Sir Didymus is my favorite, and a couple of additional names I'll have to dub in because I forgot to add them. And here I am with those dubbed names. Thank you to the Demon Bunny, Vin Jost, and Sarvis. I'm a little bit distracted, you might have noticed. Everyone's reintegrated. Don't worry about Navarro. He got rehoused. He's completely happy where he is. But this is the mischief now, and it's a lot.